Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm specifically asking a question to a number of people who comment on my videos. And it's weird. I've got a collection of people who watch me that I'm proud of. I'm glad it's a cross section. When I look at the comments, I don't have just one point of view represented there. People asking for pictures of K-pop at the end of videos, all that kind of stuff. It's nice. And then I have some people who are definitely, I would say, culture warriors. I was kind of proud. I did this post of like, what are the problems facing the comic industry? What do you think? And a bunch of people came in and engaged around distribution and price and kind of all that stuff. And for a while, there was none. And then there's like one person who came in and's like, leftist woke politics as the biggest problem. But there wasn't a lot of that. I mean, most people are like, yeah, if comic books can't be found and if they're overpriced, it really doesn't matter if it's right-wing politics, left-wing politics, amazing comics or absolute trash. Um, you know, they're not going to get bought because they're you can't find them. And I thought that was good. But I've got, people who are definitely still sore over that kind of stuff. Um, Many of those people have kind of migrated off to channels that just give them that fix every day with whatever the outrage of the day is. And then I've got kind of the other end of the spectrum, people who are in there going, hey, I like the Pride anthologies, I like that content. I mean, and that's fine too. Again, and everything in between, I like it. But here's an honest question that I have, and I'm gonna sort through my logic here, and by all means, I'm probably just looking at this the right way or the wrong way. Actually, I think I am looking at it the right way, but from your perspective, maybe looking at this the wrong way. So, for the last, I don't know, really about 8 years, 10 years, yes, it coincides with Trump, and yes, I understand that is probably the common thread here, but it still doesn't necessarily explain the behavior. Comics have been obsessed with Nazis. And what I mean by that is, you can't go a month without the heroes either talking about Nazis, fighting people who they're calling Nazis, just kind of general Nazi talk. And if you go back in comics, certainly there's been Nazis in comics before. This is one of always the disingenuous things that, people like Rich Johnston do, is like, there have always been Nazis in comics. Yes, there have, but not every month. The villains were more diverse. No pun intended, than that. You had aliens, and then you had, some Nazis. You had the Red Skull and kind of old World War II, people who are frozen in ice and they come out and they just start blowing things up. You have the Serpent Society. You have, you have people trying to rob a bank. You have the Green Goblin. You have, you have like this mix of villains, and it's not not everyday Nazis. And then slowly in comics, Nazis started to become two things. One, a lot more just Nazis, and to me, these characters, these villains were always super, super boring because, even visually, I mean, forget about the storyline and everything else. You draw a white guy in a hat with a t-shirt and a torch. Like for a while they had the villains, like groups of villains running around with those tiki torches. And I get it. I know, obviously I know where that's drawing from, but I mean, do you want to see a comic book, a superhero comic book with like 20 guys in tiki torches going up against Ghost Rider? Like that's going to be a very, very boring fight. I mean, right? I don't even know, like, even if you are like hate white supremacist Nazis, whatever it is, hate it as much as more than anyone in the world. That is a boring fight. It should be a boring fight. It should be a very quick fight. Like that's not even a fight. There was a comic in the anthology of a bunch of white supremacists going after Amadeus Cho, and just you felt for the artist because Cho was in his Hulk persona. And, you got, on one hand, you're drawing the Hulk, which is kind of an exciting thing to draw. Lots of action there. And the other hand, you've got to draw like 40 faceless random dudes in jeans and t-shirts. It's like, I don't know. I don't like if I'm the artist drawing that, I'm like, and then how do you even make that exciting? How is that more than like 2 panels? Joe puts spreads his arms apart, claps his hands at supersonic speed. Group of white supremacist Nazis fly across the street and smash into the wall, turning into a bloody pulp at 80 miles an hour. The end. I just, I don't get it. But anyway, you start seeing a lot of those kinds of fights. And, as somebody who read comics for a long time, it's like, all right, we're going to get the Lethal Legion in here. I don't know why I went to them first. We're going to get the Marauders. Here's the Legion of Doom. I mean, I remember this is how wrecked things have gone. I remember complaining back in like the late 90s. It's like, I don't really like the Joker when the Joker attacks Batman, because they always have to have a bunch of the Joker henchmen. They're always wearing the same clown mask, and it's just very, very dull. Like, to take a bunch of random clown mask guys running around with the Joker, it's like, it's very dull. Man, how good I had it. I had no idea how good things actually were. But I mean, you have these amazing villains, and now we got this shit. And then also, all the characters started to, the heroes started to become very comfortable with calling people Nazis, and then kind of, talking about murdering Nazis. Like, you've got these panels of Captain America, and granted, yeah, Captain America did murder some Nazis in World War II, with a gun, but that was World War II, and today you don't have Captain America running around with a rifle, like down the streets of Manhattan, like, let's go kill some Nazis. That if they did that comic today, the premise of that comic would be Captain America has lost his mind and needs to be stopped. That's what would happen. Or at least, that's what would have happened 10 years ago. Today, you might have Captain America running around the streets with a rifle, kind of with a crazed look on his face, saying, let's kill Nazis. And Captain Marvel and Iron Man and others are like, sounds great to us. And like, I don't know. But I guess, but for some of you in the comments, you're like, yeah, Captain America has principles and this makes sense. It's the same reaction. If you go back and look at my feed, one of the videos that's gotten more attention was I did the Joker has joined Antifa. It was during the amalgam, DC and Marvel crossover, and the Joker and the Red Skull teamed up. And then at one point, the Joker's like, hey, I'm not a Nazi. And then he turns on the Red Skull. And the point of that video is like, okay, I think that video is kind of absurd because, all right, on one hand, you could say the Joker has principles. Joker isn't, is not into Nazis. Okay, fine. But the Joker has also terrorized Gotham, attempted genocide, murdered, huge swaths of people. Like, I don't, is a Joker really somebody who can high road anyone on what is good and bad behavior? I'm just, which gets to the point of this video. And by the way, if you look at that and you look at a lot of comments, a lot of people are like, yeah, the Joker may be a villain, but he's not that big a villain. It's like, yeah, I think he is that big a villain. I'm sorry. Like, this is my question to you. And I'm sure this will get misinterpreted. And this is the kind of stuff that gets on Reddit. And it's like, Perch says he loves Nazis. That's the kind of stuff that comes out. But I'm honestly baffled by this. And I know several of you come in and you'll be like, yeah, Perch, these people are nuts. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. But really, I am looking for somebody who disagrees with me or has this point of view to talk reasonably and just explain this thinking. Because to me, all right, if you're thinking about villainy, okay, Nazis, white supremacists are villains. Agreed. Somebody's going to go act on those beliefs, certainly if they're violent, in jail. If they're not violent, an important person. No doubt about it. Like, I'm not, I'm not hosting dinner parties where it's like, well, we should really get everyone in here. Let's make sure we invite some Nazis. No, they're like people like that and are terrible, bad, villainous people. Okay. I'm not debating that point. But I am debating if that is the worst villain of all time when compared to people who are committing genocide. This came up recently with this One World Under Doom comic, and Doom is like, these Hydra people are Nazis and racist. They deserve to die. And I've got people in the comments like, well, that Doom has principles. No, he doesn't. I understand he's got his own logic and he could be a nuanced villain and you could like him as a villain. But this is a guy who willingly used the ultimate nullifier to wipe out an entire reality from existence because he felt they were making fun of him. He is a guy who murdered the love of his life and wore her skin around as armor for several issues. He's a guy who has repeatedly, killed off citizens. Like here's the weird part. Doctor Doom, with the iron grip he has on Lavernia, one of the things, if you read those comics for decades and decades and decades, you read through the John Byrne run, you read through the Stan Lee Jack Kirby run, you read through all the comics. If you defied the will of Doom, you were executed. Immediately they would do little things like the Fantastic Four would come up. It's like, oh, all the people are happy with Doom's rule, and then you kind of dig a little deeper. It's like, yeah, because they get murdered if they're not. And this isn't me projecting. There are comics and there are panels of Doctor Doom frying people for things like spilling wine. Like the servant's like, oh shit, I dropped this glass, and Doom turns him into ash. But with the way Doom rules over the country, that is a totalitarian fascist. It is, by definition, it is. But it's also somebody who has, look, he's ripping the spines out of people. I mean, go back and look at these comics. And so when I see people saying things like, well, at least he's not a Nazi, I'm like, I don't, what point are you making here? Because I honestly don't get it. And so again, I just like to help me understand, because this is not a video in defense of Nazis. Again, to me, there's like a line of villainy and evil, right? And to me, Nazis are on the wrong side of that line. They're on the villain side of that line. You're walking around professing that a race should be exterminated, and and just kind of, if that's you, okay, bad. In World War II, we rightly went to war to stop that. And today the word Nazi gets applied to like lots of things. Like, do you oppose reparations? You're a Nazi. I mean, and so it's become a catch-all term for kind of just muddling together a lot of beliefs. But bad. At no point am I ever saying that's not bad, villainous, bad behavior. Okay, bad people. But I am confused. One, why in the hierarchy of villainy in comics that has become the absolute worst? How can anybody say that with a straight face when, again, you have people who commit genocide? Like, is it somehow better that Thanos wants to murder everyone in the universe, but at least he's not racist? He's murdering everyone. Does that make him better? I don't think that makes him better. I think it makes him more of a threat. I honestly don't get it. Other than, again, you don't have to say his comments. People have identified themselves as anti-Trump. Trump equals racist Nazi. Therefore, that is the worst thing in the entire world. And I just struggle with people who have that kind of simplistic, childlike mindset. It's just that you should, as a grown, functioning adult who in theory is going to help the world move around, you should be able to have some more nuance, and you should have a little more depth to your views, I think, than just, I hate the term, but orange man bad. I get it. And it gets a lot of people in comics, like that's the height of their intellectual capability. Fine. But I don't know how you can be a writer, be in comics, and be able to simultaneously have your hands on thousands of available villains who are serial killers, who are genocidal maniacs, who are, morally corrupt, stealing, killing people with cancer, like just all kinds of whatever the worst kind of villainy is. And you have settled on random faceless people, and you've turned the heroes into people who are cheerfully like running around talking about like, this person disagrees with me politically. I think I will kill them. Yeah, that's what the Avengers do. What? How did we get here? I mean, again, politics. That's how we got here. But this is stupid. And then, I've said this before, and I'll end with this plea. Can somebody explain to me again, or make the case? By the way, I'm not. I would ask the other people who are listening to this, if somebody comes in and says, "Look, here's why Nazis are the absolute worst, and this is it." Worse than again genocidal maniacs who, the argument of the Joker always baffles me. Here's a guy who blows up hospitals with sick, dying people and healthy people and everything else, sprays chemical acid in people's faces, poisons the river to just murder civilians left and right. And somehow this guy has principles as opposed to a Nazi. Like, how is that better? I don't get it. But if somebody comes in and makes the case, I would welcome it. It's honestly a question I have. Please, let's not don't trash those people in the comments. Don't go after them. Like, hear them out, because I am puzzled by this, and I would love an answer. And then, as I said, I want to end with this. Can please, I'm not saying, protect the poor Nazis, don't put them in comics. I'm saying, can we do it a little less? And use some of the other villains we have? I mean, it's 2025, and I am begging for, the circus of crime as some villains. Can we just get the circus of crime for what? That's how bad it's gotten. Please, can we do something? I mean, you've got so much to work with, and random ugly racists against the Hulk. I mean, really? And I'm not saying never do this. I'm not saying we're doing this because we're trying to spare the racist feelings. I'm just saying, this feels like the boringest thing you could possibly do. At the very least, I feel like if it was Mark Miller writing this comic, if you're gonna do that, then bring some creativity to it and have the heroes just absolutely mop the fucking floor with these people, because they would. Or just don't make. You can't have this. Like, too many of these, particularly in the anthologies, waste 3-4 pages, and there's story after story after story of heroes going up against nothing. All right, I've had enough. Look, honestly, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think there's lots of different types of villainy. I think there's some types of villainies that far exceed. I mean, here's the other part. So I was going to end with this, but you keep thinking of more things. When I was a kid and I was reading Captain America would go up against Red Skull. Red Skull would have his collection of Nazi henchmen. And at times the comic was like, at times it was like Nazis who were wearing the armband. They were like, they're dressed like Nazis, acting like Nazis. Then at times he had the Red Skull dressed up like a businessman. He's just trying to, I don't know what these do. Like, I'm going to turn everybody's face red with skull. Like, that's my evil plan. Blah, ha, ha, ha. It's like, I'm not sure what this has to do with racism and Nazis, but okay. He's a villain. Fine. I'd get these comics, and to me, when I'd read them, I'd always think, this is, I would not, I would like it when Captain America would go up and beat the Red Skull. Well, a lot of those comics of like Captain America working his way through the Red Skull's henchmen, when that would happen, they'd be very, very dull. And even though you've got like Mike Zeck, or you've got John Byrne and some, you got really great artists like showing Captain America kind of mowing through these people, but they would never, like, it was always kind of like, all right, we're getting to the main event, we're getting to the main fight. This is not the main fight. And so when I look at comics sometimes in now in 2024, I feel like it's those panels from when I was a kid of the heroes just kind of going through faceless henchmen, but with no boss fight. It's just we're getting comic after comic of like henchman battles, and I don't know. It's like the worst part. That's the worst part of comics. Oh well, I don't know. Please help me understand. I I honestly want to know. Thanks for listening.